Hello dear audience, thank you very much for watching again. We are today in Lithuania, in Vilnius, and we are interviewing a very interesting guy. And maybe you can introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Marijus, I'm CTO of NordVPN. Really glad to have you here and have the interview.
You're CTO, that means this is the technical officer, right?
Yes, Chief Technical Officer of the NordVPN. I manage several teams, I do some R&D, a lot of things that are going on right here, so yeah.
Sounds like busy days?
Of course, busy days, with the meetings, full of meetings, yeah.
Are you personally from Lithuania?
Yes, I am. I grew up here in small town Jurbarkas. A little town, then came to Kaunas to have studies in computer networks, then came to Vilnius to try to find my job. Yeah.
Since when are you at NordVPN?
It's almost 5 years now, but it's kind of interesting story because I had a business once too, by the way, and after hitting the minus 30%, the threshold, I wanted to travel a bit, so I went to Central America and volunteered for 2 years in there. And after my savings ended up, I was thinking what to do. And the first idea was to create a travel company in Nicaragua, by the way. And the second was to go back in tech because I had experience in that. So I think it's obvious where I ended up right now. So yeah.
Yeah, once around the globe, yeah.
Yeah.
And then back to Vilnius.
Yeah, and then back to Lithuania, Vilnius, yeah.
Yeah, not bad. Family, children?
I live here alone in Vilnius right now, enjoying the life as much as I can. Yeah.
Yeah, in tech industry, that means you're very busy. How can we have two families, right?
Well, a good example is yours example. You have a family, big family, and you are still doing these, traveling around. So I think it really depends on your lifestyle, yeah.
Yeah, there is time for this and for this,
yeah.
I guess. Do you know something about the story, how and why NordVPN got founded?
Yes, I do. It was around 2012. Some friends traveling around the world saw that there is a need for a tool for privacy and data protection and that take care of your data, and there were no easy tools in the market, to be honest, and they decided and coined the idea to create a VPN for the customers. Yeah.
It's already a long time ago?
Yes, it was a long time ago.
Yeah, at this time there was not so many VPN providers on this planet.
Yeah. I think that's true, yeah. When they did the research, they thought there were several at the time. So that was the main idea, to have the opportunity for the big boom. Yeah.
Well, at this time it was maybe also not a big business because not so many people were aware about the privacy and so on. So there was not so many customers like today, right?
Yeah, that's true. I don't think that it was really a necessary tool at the time because people needed education and to think about what is privacy and security for them, especially. So.
Yeah. NordVPN doesn't have the legal identity here in Lithuania. Where is it and why?
So the corporate structure spawns around several countries right now, but the NordVPN legally based in Panama. And then the main reason is, of course, the privacy-friendly laws in there. That was the main idea why we founded the NordVPN in there.
Mm-hmm. That sounds also far away. How many people are living and working in Panama?
I don't think that we have a lot of people in Panama, to be honest.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, because of legal reasons means you can protect better the data, right? You're not forced to cooperate with local governments and so on. This is one of the reasons, right?
Yeah, because of the privacy-friendly laws that Panama has, and they protect users' privacy in general, so that's why we ended up the NordVPN, and we are based on these laws. Yeah.
That's cool. Out of your point of view, what do you think are the challenges today to operate the VPN service? I mean, so for you, most probably, what is the daily challenge what you're facing?
From the product perspective, I see that internet is shrinking. It's becoming into these islands that we have right now. So to connect to one area or another, you need something to do that to reach the service, right? Another thing about privacy and security that comes to mind that is it's happening the same with the big corporations too. So they are installing some rules in their corporate networks that the information is not accessible. For me personally, the biggest challenge here, of course, is time management and people. But they love it, and we always like to do new stuff, R&D, and implement some really cool ideas. So,
how many colleagues do you have? Because you're talking.
Right now in Nord Security we have about 800 people working, so it's quite a big company. Yeah.
Now I feel myself not so good because I cannot find so easily good workers. And motivated workers to work in my company. What are you doing that so many people want to work in NordVPN?
We usually search for several key areas that we look into the people. The first one would be that they should love tech. They should be interested not only in tech but in cybersecurity. The second thing that motivates people, I think, is the challenges that we have, because the cybersecurity in general as a market is really interesting and always evolving, you know. You have to think something new and to discover something new just to provide a better service for your customers. So these are the main points. Of course, we take care of our people's happiness too. We like to celebrate, we like to work hard, we like to celebrate every quarter. We have these events in our OKRs, and we take care of our people's health and make sure that they have challenges while working. Yeah.
So you make them happy with social events?
Not only, of course.
This is really a topic that I like personally, how to motivate people to come to my, but maybe I'm not such a famous company as you are. That's maybe one of the reasons.
Some tips. Usually when you work with a lot of people, there are several areas that needs to be filled. First of all is psychological safety in the work, of course. The second is meaning about the work, what they are doing. And the third one that I'm focusing is clarity about the company and why they're doing this and what they're going to do. You know, so,
yeah. What is NordVPN doing?
NordVPN
You're talking about this clarity.
Yeah, NordVPN is trying to protect users' data, to encrypt the traffic, and to make sure that you have a tool set on your hand, on your phone, on your device, just to use it to protect your data flowing around. Yeah.
Protect data is mentioned very often nowadays, but what means? Privacy is something very subjective, from my point of view. So I feel private when I lock my curtains at home.
Yeah.
I don't feel private when I'm naked in the park, right?
Yeah.
Okay, this is for me. Others maybe see it different.
Yeah.
What means data protection or privacy for you personally?
I would say that we live in surveillance capitalism, in the golden age of it, to be honest, right now. There are a lot of data flowing out throughout my watch right now, throughout my phone. And knowing where the data is stored, what is happening with it, to be honest, and what you're doing with it, how it interacts with you back, that's privacy to me in general, in the main point of view. But as you mentioned, I think it's really subjective too, because it really depends on the person and how they see it and how they educated are in this topic.
Can we have full anonymity by using a VPN service?
And yes and no, to be honest. VPN service is just one of the areas that you should care about, speaking about privacy. But it really depends on your device that you are using, and it really depends on your browser that you're using and other tool sets that you're doing day to day and how you interact with the data. So VPN helps, of course. It will always help and always will, but there are a lot of other means that you should take care about too.
When we are talking about anonymity or privacy, the other side of this medal is most probably that criminals also love anonymity and privacy, right?
Yeah.
Do you support criminals?
Of course not. We do not support criminals in any way, and we are legally bound to answer to all the legal acts that we are facing and we are doing. So no, NordVPN doesn't support criminals.
A very often asked question for us is because there is a lot of VPN services, they are just renting hardware and so on. And because you are the CTO, so most probably you can give me answer. So do you have own servers?
So,
or what is so special on your network which you are operating? I guess it's really huge.
Yes, it's a hybrid one, to be honest. We usually rent the service from other providers, but we use the special setup that we have to make it sure that they meet our standards right now. So all the servers are diskless, all the operating systems are running in RAM, and we use a lot of other things to make sure that we having the best network that we have right now. So, yeah.
Why we are running diskless?
That's a really interesting topic because VPNs usually compete with each other what to implement something new, you know. So one of the things that we did with the NordLynx, for example, a new protocol based on WireGuard that we released, one of our competitors released the diskless service or service in RAM. So just putting the higher standard in general for the whole VPN market. So we had to do it too, you know. We were working on this already, but we just had to do it right now. And I think all the VPNs should do it. Encrypt the disks or run the service.
Why we should do it? I mean, what is the benefit for the users?
Because it basically reduces the attack surface. If it's possible, if something happened in the data center already, if somebody would go to the server, there are basically no disks. And it's fully provides with our no logs policy that we want to use. And if you're gonna switch off the server, you want to take the information, it's basically nothing to take off, you know. So it's a really cool feature, yeah.
In United Europe, I mean, I'm from Austria, you're from Lithuania, maybe Russians, Americans, anything. The world is coming together. European Union is a special sign for this, so we can travel without borders. We arrived yesterday with plane and no one asked us for any passport, not by leaving, not by arrival. But when I'm a German guy and I'm living in Luxembourg, I cannot watch German television. So this is what you said before, this is the separation of the internet.
Yeah.
Will that continue out of your point of view, and how should we deal with that, you know? I mean, it's more and more things are restricted.
I think that's a really interesting and important question, to be honest, and it's really a legal issue that we have right now. So in my point of view, I think it really depends on the governments, how they're going to approach it and what they're going to do with the laws. And none of the cybersecurity firms that we have in the world right now cannot help with it. So it's a legal side. I don't want to go into the details, but yeah, I think it is.
Can you give me the certificate? Sorry. Because one thing is very important. We as a VPN tester, we also just try to find out what is important for our readers, and we also ask our readers. And NordVPN gained during the last 7 years, I guess, 6 years, maybe since your responsibility.
Not only, I'm sure.
Absolutely a very exceptional rank in customer satisfaction. Yeah, and this is why you get this certificate. I can give you.
Thank you.
But the question is, how did you manage to have such a good customer care, and what importance has customer service for you?
I think it's a really important sector, and what we do with our product is basically a 360 approach. So it's not only about product itself, not only about the marketing, but about customer care and to be on 24/7, you know, because this is the way how we can interact with our customers and to help them when they need it and to provide the support that they need. So we invest a lot in this, and thank you for that certificate. Yeah.
I was criticizing NordVPN in previous reviews, which we made very often about the low price, because free VPN services on this market, they are also available, right? But my point of view is, if you book a free VPN service and without cost, then most probably you will be the product by yourself.
Of course.
So any service has a price.
Yeah.
I think that's clear. NordVPN is super cheap somehow. Why are you so cheap?
I would disagree with that.
Okay.
We are not so cheap, to be honest, right now. There are cheaper VPNs in the market, and I fully understand their side, because to enter the market right now, you have to basically provide something special, and the pricing is something that you can cut something off, But right now, our math is adding up, and that's how we live. Yeah.
They also offer not just VPN. This is also what we need to make clear. Yeah, maybe many people just think NordVPN and it's inside of the name, but practically it's more or less a security suite. Yeah. It's NordLog, right?
Yeah. So NordVPN was a really good Kickstarter for us, because when we introduced it, we grew really quickly and became one of the leading VPNs in the market. And after that, in 2018, we introduced Nord White Label. And year after, we introduced even 3 products. So NordPass, the password manager, NordBlocker, the file encryption tool that we are providing, and NordLayer right now, that is basically B2B VPN for business. And that's why we created Nord Security in general. It's a global brand, security brand focused on cybersecurity, and all these projects that I mentioned are under his umbrella right now.
Yeah. Sounds very complicated to have more than one service, and but you manage well somehow. I know, of course, there is a lot. We have tested already 116 VPN providers, so most probably there is even more on this planet. Yeah. Some appears very often, some has big occasion, low prices, and then they disappear.
Yeah.
When you came to this industry, most probably you also made something like a market research, and you found out which providers are available.
Yeah.
Was there other providers where you said these features from them are really cool, that's why we need them, or which other services would you not recommend, of course, but where you can say they're also very cool? They have had some features in past, which was an inspiration.
That's what's really cool about the cybersec and VPN market, because as I mentioned before, we are always competing. So each quarter, every big VPN tries to introduce something new. For example, my said before NordLynx, others introduced diskless servers. That's why we are competing. And of course, there were some features that we are doing and trying to do what they offer, other VPNs. But for now, most of the time I look at the small ones, to be honest, because they are really hungry in the market, and they try to find their way not only through lower pricing, but really cool tech stuff. So I'm always researching and looking what they're doing and why they're doing, and how could they benefit for their users and their audience. Yeah.
So not one service, there was a lot which gets somehow inspiration. And
of course.
Okay.
So the whole market is a really good inspiration for us.
Mass surveillance is a topic that appeared, especially also because of Edward Snowden's leaks. I think it's just a sleepy topic because it's still available, right? And most probably even more than before. So how should we counteract to mass surveillance in our society, or is it necessary, or it doesn't matter?
That's a really interesting question, and it really depends on how you view it, right? So on one hand, we have mass surveillance done by governments. On the other hand, we have surveillance capitalism done by really big companies or corporates like Google and so on, right? So I think the education is the most important part in here. If the people don't know that their data is flying around somewhere, they don't need to think about it, to take care about it. But that's why we invest a lot in education, not only to our people that work in our companies, but to the outside world too, to just make that tension to them that they should know what is happening and why it is happening. Because we have really different data laws in Europe, we have really different data laws in US right now, so yeah, you should be aware of it.
Before we were talking also about these activists which you liked very much. I forgot the name.
Yeah, we follow some of them. So Access Now, Electronic Frontier Foundation.
Yeah. You're supporting them, right?
We are admiring and supporting them, of course. Yeah.
Do you think there is already enough non-governmental organizations, or should be more for data protection and for awareness?
I think it should be more. The more education, the better, in my point of view. And I wish them good luck to just, creating and be just spreading the awareness about the mass surveillance and surveillance capitalism. Yeah.
There is a rumor that antivirus software developers made the viruses. Okay, that's just a rumor for sure. Anyway, we were profiting from media reports about viruses, and of course they also really happened. Can that be that VPN providers also create threats?
I don't think so, to be honest. I think that topics that we talked about before is really important, and the VPNs is just filling the market and providing the products for the users. So as I mentioned, how the NordVPN was founded, because the people were traveling and sawing that basically we are getting into these silos, and the privacy and data is really the way to go. I think all VPN providers wishes the best to the user, and just ensures that they have the better service. Yeah.
Anyway, there was also some providers on the market, maybe you don't know them, but I know them, which were using the data of the customers. For instance, for private proxy IP addresses and so on, so that has happened. So there is some, they are not available on the market most probably anymore, but there was some providers that did some things. We were also using the data, but I think the business model should be always customer pays for and get the service, and not customer pays for and we can sell the service, sell the data as well.
Yeah, I think the same. So the good example that you mentioned before was free VPN providers. So where did the money come from? So, if you operating the business, you have to have the income from somewhere. So if you are using free VPN, please be aware. Maybe you are the product and not.
The next question is for sure something very easy. Which VPN provider are you using usually?
Of course, I use NordVPN, but I have the privileges. I have the privilege to have the beta apps that are just ready to be released to the market to test new features and so on. But my setup is not the usual case. I usually try to do some really interesting stuff with the NordVPN and manual setups and so on. So, but yeah, I usually use NordVPN daily.
Yeah.
Because I'm, dog fooding, and I'm the beta tester of my apps myself. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're using more than one device, most probably.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I have Android, iOS, iPhone. My day-to-day operating system is Linux. So yeah.
Wow. I would say for an interview, this was really great in the way that you show transparency to our audience about your company, about your impressions, and I'm very sure that our audience will value this very much. This is by far, I guess, the first interview that you gave for NordVPN. So, or maybe with video. Anyway, for our audience.
Yeah, for your audience, yeah.
And I'm super happy that that has happened. Yeah. I would say we come now to the point that we will also answer some questions from our readers.
Yeah,
if
of course.
Accept. So, readers were asking. Practically every VPN server where people are connected to store the IP address of the user.
No, they don't.
Okay.
Basically, it's impossible, especially it really depends on their setup, but in our example, as we use diskless, the service without disks, everything is in RAM. There are several other standards that we use, but IPs are not stored. And I'm sure that other VPNs do the same because it's really the market standard right now.
What happened when police call you and say, hey, we are looking for a guy. He was visiting yesterday a website. He had this IP address. Who is it?
So we apply to the Panama laws, and we usually follow them and do all the necessary things, what we need to do depending on the laws that we have in there. Yeah.
Does it work?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
1 second.
Be honest. Do you work together with governments?
No, we don't. Well, it really depends on the question. So if they send us some kind of a legal document, we have to answer to it. So that's how we work with governments.
Yeah. Do you get paid from what is the name of this NSA, secret
NSA,
agencies,
secret agency.
Governmental data collection, espionage services?
No, of course.
No?
No.
You're not affiliated with that?
No, no, no.
Who's of your manager is affiliated with?
No, you should ask them. Not me.
Okay. A user, Andreas, is asking, he says that he is using VPN mainly just for data retention, to escape the data retention in his country, most probably Germany.
Okay.
Is NordVPN applicable for this? Is this a good solution to what question is this? Sorry. No, this is not a question. Here's just a statement.
Okay.
Let's go to.
I'm pretty happy, Andreas, that you're using NordVPN. Keep using it.
Yeah, like this. How do you know how many devices? I mean, when I buy a NordVPN subscription,
yeah.
I can connect 6 times. I
Yes,
guess.
that's true.
How do you know this if you don't log?
We have to count the sessions. It's done through radius accounting processing. So at the time, we are counting how many sessions do you have, but only the count of your sessions, that's all. Yeah, I can go deeper into technology
Yes.
if you want. So,
I think that's an important question.
yeah,
for many
so
people.
basically, when you look from the user's perspective, you have an app, you are connecting to the VPN server, and VPN server have their own backend AAA service. In our case, it's a radius protocol, and at the time while you connected to the server, we see that the session is on, right? Mm-hmm. But since you disconnect, everything is deleted. So, but at the time, yes.
So, and if one user has 6 sessions, then the 7th is blocked.
Yes, it should be in our case.
Let's choose another. So many questions. Yeah. One question is rumors that NordVPN is also already part of Kapet technologies, like ExpressVPN, CyberGhost VPN, all others we know.
No, we are not. Yeah, but it was a really interesting event that happened that Kapet acquired Express, so they have a huge VPN basket right now. So yeah.
Yeah, and also some media outlets which make advertisement for them.
Yeah.
Oh. Yes, Adrian is asking, I guess he's from France or something. Adrian is asking, a lot of websites are blocking already VPN users.
Yes.
Do you have a solution for this?
I think it's cats and mouse game. There are some technical things that we can offer to our customers, but to be honest, it's an always ongoing battle, like with the restricted countries that we have. If we are providing some kind of obfuscation protocol or a tool, there are ways to track it and to block it. So it's an ongoing challenge. It's an interesting one, to be honest.
Okay. Arife is asking, can your servers be manipulated via USB?
I don't really understand the question.
I think the question here is that someone can go to one of your servers, switch, plug in with a USB device, and start hacking it, or to manipulate some other servers.
So we use monitoring systems, and we monitor what's happening with our servers, what is the state of the server, and so on. So we should notice if something is happening with our server. Besides that, we use strict requirements for our data centers and providers that we use right now. So it's really important for us to have the quality bar for the servers too.
Mm-hmm. NordVPN is using trackers in apps, especially in the Play Store and iOS, most probably as well. I don't know. Why are you using trackers in apps? This is most probably Google Analytics and these things.
Yeah, it's for marketing purposes. That's of course. So most other VPNs use the same. I think you're talking about Firebase or something like that. Yeah.
These trackers are not from you. Can the owner of the tracker, like in this case Google Analytics, see what the users are doing then?
No, it's impossible because all the traffic basically goes through the VPN server, and the VPN server it's not logging what you're doing.
Yeah, so a tracker in the app has no influence to tracking the activities of the users.
No,
that's the situation. It's more or less that, as I understand you right, where the user come from to download the app. Yeah. Or if you want to make advertisement, which you are doing successfully as well. I saw even television.
Yeah, that's true.
Wow. You need to track somehow if it's successful or not, right?
Yes, that's true. So for sales and marketing, yeah.
Yeah. So thank you very much. Again, always. I believe our audience will really value that you had time for us. Your questions were. The answers to my questions were super interesting for me. I have learned some more things about you and NordVPN. It has changed even my impression about NordVPN, and I believe that will happen also with the audience in some ways, in a good way. That's very nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. It's really nice to meet you in person. I hope that we're gonna meet next year, maybe for another award.
Yes.
We're gonna see how it will go.
Yes,
but that's really cool.
Do you have a recommendation for a good restaurant for me and my colleague this evening? Not to pay. Yes, that's another thing. Did you invite me
to
come here?
No, I didn't.
Do you pay my flight ticket?
No, of course not.
No. So this is very clear. This is not an advertisement what we are doing here. We don't get paid from you. We did not get invited. That's super important, right?
But for the restaurants, it really depends what you want.
Okay.
But there is really hipster cool place in the new town. It's called Azeri. It's a little bit far away. Yeah, but if you want cepelinai and šaltibarščiai, you should go to Pilies gatvė. It's Lithuanian food.
It was a lot of Lithuanian words.
I'm gonna write it down for you.
Yeah, please. That would be really
Yeah, and did you try šaltibarščiai? It's the pink soup.
No.
No, you
What
didn't?
Is that?
It's a pink soup. Pink soup.
Yeah. Pink soup?
Yeah.
I like borscht just.
Yeah, like borscht, but just
like
pink.
It's cold.
It's cold.
With the
the cold soup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cold soup with kefir, with milk, I guess. Beetroots, and egg. Have you tried it?
No.
You should have tried
Yeah, you have to try it.
You have to try this. It's like 50-50. People love to hate it, so it's nothing in between. So
let's see if I'm 50 or 50.
Yeah, and then cepelinai.
Cepelinai?
Try Lithuanian food from potatoes and meat.
No.
Oh, it's super heavy.
This is the third time I'm here, and
Yeah.
the first two times it was dark.
Oh, in car. Yeah, so
I'm gonna write it down for you, okay?
Yeah, so you should go to eat some. We have a lot of fancy and nice restaurants with European
Gali duot
cuisine, but if you want
lapuką užrašyti?
vibes,